This is another website that you can tell is quite old, actually, just from the design, but it's still current. And I've been visiting this site since I was in university. So they say last update June 14th, 2020, but this website was up at least as far back as 1997, as I recall. And this particular page is devoted to Prague Trams. I wanted it because it has a roster. So these are trainers. These are the original Tatra T3s. These are T3SUs, which were originally meant to be exported to the Soviet Union, hence the SU designation. So these were from the 1980s. And then SUCSs were a development of the SU. T3M consists of both a prototype T3M as well as rebuilds of the old T3s from the 60s. And the T3R PV, P, and PLF are, as I understand it, the low floor. AG200 is a experimental. Let's take a look at those quickly. Also the RP, but the RP is, as I understand it, yeah, RPs are just modernized. There's nothing really special about them. There we go, all the way back here. Okay. Back. See if this... Okay, that works better. So the PLF is actually low floor. So PLF, low floor. In English, of all things. PV. By the look of it, just another rebuild. You can tell that they have the intention of holding on to these for an incredibly long time because they're so iconic. Now, if you look at an SU, you can spot them because of the numbering in the 7000s, but actually, they otherwise are not very remarkable. They look basically like the original T3s. SUCS again. Nothing particularly remarkable about these either. They just look like old T3s. Now, yeah, the RT6N1, which I mentioned earlier, the prototype Tatra that they never ended up adopting, but which, as I said, I managed to get some photos of in its last years of testing. It also explains, actually jumping back, it explains why the Skoda 14Ts are numbered the way they are, because these early numbers, 9101, 9102, 03, and 04, are all taken up by these. Now they have the T3M here also, but as I've said before, T3Ms are basically modernized T3s. AG200, what's the significance? Oh, well. Yeah, nothing really significant about that at all. All right, so then we have the KT8s, which were the articulated trams from the 1980s, also Tatras. These have mostly been modernized with digital destination boards and these number boxes that have been pulled off the roofs. But this is how they looked originally. You can see the dates, 2004 here for most of these. So in 2004, the tram system in Prague in general was a very different place from today. There was a lot more vintage stuff running around. But also, the city was in general not in the same condition it's in today. Those photos generally flatter the city. Now these are the rebuilds with the digital boards. Not sure how much else there is to say. And then, of course, the original T3 is here, but it's a little bit anticlimactic because they just look like T3s, like the T3SUs. But these are the actual original designs. And note the date, 2004. So this is not just a historical photo at this point, but I don't even know if this tram is still in service at this point. They're getting rarer and rarer if you're talking about the old Tatra T3s. I actually know where this is, I think. Yeah. Actually, this is actually in Angel, which is the neighborhood where the Ringhofer plant was. (1996). That's a long time ago. Anyway. Then they have an oddball thrown in here, one of the last successful Tatras, you could argue, the T6A5. A few different variants are made of the T6, including some that are made for Brno. But they're still very, very common. They're from the mid-90s, most of them built in 1996, as I understand it. And they're everywhere, actually. So it's very similar to the KT4. But the KT4, as you can see, is articulated like the KT8, whereas the T6 trams have never been articulated. By definition, they're a different design. Another old photo. It isn't immediately obvious, but this is a 2004 photo. And of course we have the Škodas. So the Škodas are 14Ts and 15Ts. I guess 15T4 is the second generation, or the second block, if you will, with the white stripe. These are all more recent, of course, because these trams have only been in service a relatively short time. So I guess that's all I wanted to show you. There is a roster available, even if it's meant more for photos, that you can sort through the photos. They have the historical trams here too, but these are kind of a mishmash of the ones that have been preserved. So Ringhofers, obviously. I don't know what this is. I guess these are the T1s. Yeah. That's at Strešovice, by the way. That's the Transit Museum. Interior of the T1, which isn't too radically different from a T3, except for that the T3s don't have the seating against the walls like this. In any case, I think that's about all I can show for an introduction, so now I'll move on to the actual tram videos after all this time.